there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
Read and I've heard, and I did have one very brief meeting on it, but people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
President Obama says that there is footage and records of objects in the skies, these unidentified aerial phenomenon, and he says we don't know exactly what they are. What do you think that it is?
I would ask him again. Thank you.
Whoa, so questions about UFOs have been popping up again, and it's because governments have literally admitted they exist. Before that, my name is Christian, and today we're going to lay out all the known patterns of UFOs, whether or not they're of alien origin, and discuss how these reports might be a hint toward limitless energy. So let's jump in. 5 years ago, the New York Times reported on a secret $22 million Pentagon defense initiative called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It was designed to examine military encounters with UAPs. In other words, unidentified aerial phenomenons, which in government terms is basically another word for UFO, but with slightly less alien-related baggage. Healthcare, taxes, and who won an election can be tough to agree on, but ironically, this disclosure triggered a bipartisan outreach from US politicians to seek a comprehensive report on what the military actually knows. Fast forward 3 years to the beginning stages of the pandemic, when most people were distracted by elections and the fear of getting sick. The Pentagon acknowledged that several leaked military recordings of UFOs were real. Some pilots have even been interviewed on 60 Minutes and claimed that their state-of-the-art aircrafts, constructed by the most well-funded military on Earth, couldn't compete. So if you live in the US, you might remember when the government passed some legislation to help give you some money. Well, within one of those bills was a provision for that comprehensive UFO report, with the expectation that it would be shared with the Congress and partially with the public. It was released last year, and it was as vague as you might imagine, but to sum up the most crucial information, the Pentagon confirmed another 143 UAP reports from 2004 to 2021. Along with confirming that 18 demonstrated abnormal flight patterns, and some UAPs emitted radio frequency energy. The final assessment? Inconclusive, as you might imagine, and didn't mention the word alien once. Whether or not that's the whole story, or if aliens are involved, I can't say. But after decades of reported observations and research, we now have some clues to help us understand what's going on up there. Although it's unclear what these objects are, we do know that thousands of these reports are filed every year, and among them are some eerily similar descriptions of shapes, colors, and forms floating in the sky. A 2013 study identified 25 of the most common properties in UFOs. Starting with shape properties, common sizes have been found to be as small as a drone, or up to 1/4 as tall as the Great Pyramids of Giza. Unlike aerodynamic planes though, their forms tend to vary greatly, sometimes being a single glowing dot, a fleet of dots, triangular, rectangular, like a tic-tac, a saucer, and many more. The surface of these UFOs tend to be mostly white, but have been reported in many other colors as well, and they sometimes have bright lights shining from the side facing Earth. Even when UFOs are seen, they tend to only stick around for about a minute to an hour on average, but are usually described as suddenly appearing and disappearing. Observations of movements vary from being immobile to moving at various speeds in both lateral and axial directions. Not only that, but radar technology has confirmed some UFOs traveling multitudes faster than the fastest known jets, having the ability to accelerate faster than the speed of sound, and take extremely sharp turns, all without creating a sound. Some have also been known to carry out avoidance maneuvers from passenger planes, react to lasers being pointed at them, and have been seen in every environment, climate, and continent on Earth. Despite the identification of all these attributes, it's actually had the opposite effect on our understanding of them, since the more we learn, the more it doesn't make sense. Although governments might know more than they're letting on, if we were to consider the possibility of extraterrestrial origin, we should keep in mind that there are over 4,000 known Earth-like planets where other life might exist, and the nearest one is 4.2 light years away from Earth. Meaning, with our current technology, it would take 6,300 years to get there, and would necessitate hundreds of generations of humans living and being born on a spaceship, going to a location most of them will never see, WALL-E style. Also, it's only been about 5,000 years since humanity started living in large cities, which led to changes on Earth that could be observed from space. So their visit would have to be planned extremely far into the future, or the space between our planets is negligible. To a curious and advanced species, observing changes like atmospheric heating, electromagnetic frequencies, or artificial lights would likely be associated with terraforming intelligent life. Although at the rate we're changing the planet, maybe we aren't that smart, and maybe that's why we're so interesting. This is where the argument for extraterrestrial visits starts to seem less likely though, since there are thousands of known alternative planets they could have chosen instead, many of which with better resources and less pollution. So if the Earth takes a long time to get to, and there were no signs of civilization expansion 6,300 years ago, why would any species send themselves or drones to our seemingly common water-covered rock? Well, these theorized intergalactic road trips have been used to further support that UFOs can travel at unimaginably fast speeds, which would really help justify why someone or something from so far away would ever bother coming here in the first place. Less time invested in the trip might make exploration more worth it. Very relatable from a human perspective, but the real question is, what do we know about how these things work? Well, considering they never have propellers, wings, or even exhaust plumes, it's a big mystery. But one prominent theory is the use of anti-gravity technology. This is a hypothetical phenomenon of creating a place or object that's free from the force of gravity. Decades of reporting has led to this speculation, but if we were to just focus on the most verifiable example, we'd have to look at the 2004 Tic Tac encounter off the coast of San Diego. 4 former Navy pilots were dispatched to investigate multiple anomalous aerial vehicles that descended 80,000 feet in less than a second. When they arrived, they found one mysterious Tic Tac-shaped object flying right above the ocean. That is until it was captured on radar, which triggered a spontaneous disappearance and reappearance 60 miles away from the pilots. This is something the pilots admitted they never would have reported if not for having each other to help verify the observation. So this encounter exceeds any expectation of known technologies today. But some people speculate that this UFO wasn't merely speeding up. Instead, it was actually simulating teleportation by removing the gravitational force that was slowing it down. Listen, I know we're on the verge of some very speculative science fiction, but given the data, personal accounts, video evidence, and decades of similar stories, anti-gravity technologies become a top contender for trying to explain how UFOs travel so rapidly and disappear without warning. Although people speculate this, it's worth noting this doesn't exist anywhere in the laws of gravity, like anywhere. But no matter what most UFOs are or how they work, we can safely conclude that they exist, and they function very differently from any known public technologies. So at a minimum, this indicates that novel propulsion systems or energy sources may exist. If anti-gravity technology turns out to explain these observations, this would have a profound effect on every life and industry you can imagine, since gravity leads to friction, and that's a leading cause for corrosion and energy consumption. With control over gravity, matter could theoretically be adjusted to become extremely light or very heavy, which would greatly impact gravity-reliant energy systems like hydroelectric dams, for instance. Imagine having the ability to alter the force of gravity on water. It might mean you could trade out rivers worth of potential energy for small swimming pools of artificially heavy water that spins a turbine. Low gravity could also alter dynamics of manufacturing, since conveyor belts and assembling machines could expend less energy if less force is placed on them. Plus, ER patients could be suspended to reduce pressure on injured body parts, and some products like 3D printed human hearts could be created on Earth instead of in space. If you found this interesting, I'd imagine it's because you think flying vehicles or the potential for alien life is world-changing, and I do too. But it's worth pointing out this video is just for fun, and I'm not making any definitive claims. What I will say is we have a lot of questions that need more investigation. But the only way that's going to happen is if we continue to destigmatize discussions about UFOs. After decades worth of government propaganda designed to disincentivize discussions, their tune has drastically changed recently, and it's up to the public to stay curious, request disclosures, and remember to look up at the sky once in a while. That's it for this one, but if you're new to the channel, I normally talk about sustainability and the newest technologies. So if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe for more, but I'd really love to know what you think about UFOs and what you think we'll learn in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.